You forgot completely what you liked. You eat, but you don't know your favorite dish. You watch series, but you don't choose any. You live, but you decide nothing. Someone asks, "What do you want to do today?" And you freeze because you don't know. You don't know anymore. You spent so much time being what others needed that you forgot who you were. And now you are nobody. An empty shell, fulfilling functions, working, answering, functioning. But inside, empty, complete, terrifying. This is Felipe's story. 34 years old, systems analyst, 6-year relationship, stable life on paper, identity erased in reality. He disappeared inside, for years, in plain sight, and nobody noticed, not even him. Because disappearing from yourself is silent. You don't feel the lack until you try to find yourself, and there's nothing there. Have you forgotten what you liked? This is for you, before you disappear completely. If you no longer know what you like, if you no longer recognize who you are, sign up now. Here we talk about identity without romanticizing it and without lying to you. Felipe's story can show you that you're not the only one who got lost along the way. Felipe didn't wake up one day and decide to fade away. It wasn't a choice, it was erosion. Years of adaptation, demanding work, expectations, a stable relationship, family pressure, and Felipe responding, always responding, until the day he no longer knew what to answer, when the answer had to come from him, not from others. It started small. Felipe stopped choosing food. It doesn't matter. It became an automatic phrase. Julia would ask, Italian or Japanese? You choose. But what do you prefer? Anything is fine. It wasn't kindness, it was emptiness, absence of preference, and she accepted it because it makes things easier. When someone doesn't have an opinion, you decide for two and move on. But Felipe wasn't making things easier, he was disappearing, piece by piece, and nobody noticed. Because the absence of conflict seems like harmony, but forced harmony is death, silent, invisible, comfortable for others. Then came the hobbies. Felipe used to draw monsters, landscapes, characters from stories only he knew. But drawing didn't pay the bills. It wasn't productive. So he stopped. I'll come back later. An empty promise, which he repeated for years until he didn't even remember anymore. He also cooked, experimented with recipes, made a mess, laughed at his mistakes. But routine accelerated, and cooking became a chore, not a pleasure. Delivery was faster, more efficient, and Felipe optimized everything, including joy, until nothing was left that wasn't functional. Reading also disappeared. Science fiction became productivity books. Fantasy became self-help books. It needs to add value, he would say, to himself, a lie that became truth from so much repetition. And nobody questioned it, because productivity is applauded, it's valued, it's right. And Felipe was right, on the outside, dead on the inside. Felipe started saying yes to everything. Extra meeting? Yes. Weekend work? Yes. Visit to the in-laws? Yes. Movie he didn't want to see? Yes. Food he didn't like? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Automatic, reflexive, without thinking. Because thinking required knowing what he wanted, and he didn't know anymore. So he said yes, because yes avoids conflict, avoids decisions, avoids the responsibility of being a person with desires, with limits, with his own existence. And everyone loved it. Felipe is so easy to deal with. He never complains, always available. Compliments that were tombstones, marking the death of identity that nobody saw, because his body still functioned, responded, worked, smiled, and function is what matters, right? Wrong, but nobody knew, including Felipe. One day, Julia threw a surprise party. It was his birthday. She gathered friends, family, everyone was there. They sang happy birthday, and Julia brought cake. 3 options. I didn't know which one you preferred right now, so I brought 3. A cheerful tone.
But Julia heard something else. I don't know who you are anymore. And worse, he didn't know either. Which cake did he prefer? He looked. Chocolate, strawberry, lemon, and felt nothing. No preference, no memory, no connection. Anyone, he said, and saw disappointment in her eyes. Quick, but there. She wanted him to choose, to be a person, with taste, with life. But Felipe wasn't anymore. He was a function, responding, smiling, thanking, but empty, complete. And that party, made with love, he felt like a wake for the man he used to be. And nobody but him knew that he was dead. For years, walking, talking, but dead. 3 months after her birthday, on a Friday, Julia arrived excited. Wide smile, sparkling eyes. Honey, let's do something different today. You choose. Anything, whatever you want. Simple request. Reasonable. Normal. Felipe froze, completely. His mind was blank. Not out of laziness, not out of tiredness, but of an absence, total, of an answer. What do I want? He repeated, buying time. Julia laughed. Yes, honey, what do you want to do? Felipe searched, inside himself, for an answer. Anything. Movie, restaurant, park, bar, anything. But there was nothing there. Empty. Absolute. I don't know. Small voice, almost inaudible. Julia waited, smile fading.
What do you mean you don't know? I don't know, he repeated, now louder, more real, more scared. And Julia understood. It wasn't indecision. It was something worse. It was absence of identity, of will, of life. Julia sat down. Her smile faded. Felipe, you never know anymore what you want, what you like, what you prefer. I ask, and you always pass it on to me. True. Brutal. Felipe wanted to deny it, but he couldn't because it was accurate. Sorry, the only thing he managed to say. I don't want an apology. I want you. I want you to choose something, anything, so I know there's still someone in there. She pointed to his chest, and Felipe cried, right there in the living room, for the first time in years, because she was right. There was no one there, inside, just a function, responding to commands, fulfilling expectations. But a person? Will? Identity? Nothing. Zero. Complete emptiness. And Felipe realized that he was no longer her boyfriend. He was an accessory, a gift, functional, but without essence. And that terrified him, because it meant he could be replaced by anyone who said yes, who worked, who didn't bother him. Felipe spent the entire weekend thinking, trying to remember the last time he wanted something, really wanted it, didn't accept it, didn't agree with it, but wanted it, truly. And he couldn't remember. Years ago, maybe 10, when he started a new job, he wanted to impress, so he said yes to everything. And it worked. Promotion, recognition, success. And he continued saying yes, becoming the perfect mold of the ideal employee. And a perfect mold has no shape of its own. It only adapts. And Felipe adapted so much that he forgot his original shape. And now he was an empty mold, waiting to be filled by the expectations of others. Julia, boss, parents, friends, everyone filled it, and Felipe accepted because he had nothing of his own to offer, to defend, to be. He tried to make a list, things I like, blank paper, pen in hand, and nothing, absolutely nothing. He sat there for an hour looking at the paper and managed to write, coffee. Pathetic. 34 years old, and the only certainty was coffee. Not even a type of coffee, just coffee. Generic, empty, like him. Monday, work, meeting. Boss asked, Felipe, what's your opinion on the project? Opportunity
to have a voice, to exist. Felipe opened his mouth and said, "I agree with the team." Automatic, reflexive, confident, and the boss accepted. "Great, then we move on." And they moved on, without Felipe really contributing, without him existing beyond agreement. And he realized this was the pattern. Every meeting, every project, every decision, he agreed, never proposed, never disagreed, never existed beyond validation of other people's ideas. And the company loved it. Felipe is collaborative, good team player, easy to work with. Compliments that were an obituary of a professional who became just an echo, reflecting others without his own sound. Lunch, a colleague asked, "Where do you want to eat?" Felipe almost said, "Whatever," but he stopped. He forced himself. He thought, where did he want to eat? Blank mind. Japanese? Attempt. Colleague, "Do you like Japanese food?" Felipe didn't know. "I think so?" His tone was like a question about himself. His colleague looked at him strangely. "Is everything all right?" "Yes." A lie. Nothing was all right, because he didn't know if he liked the food that he was suggesting, and that wasn't normal. That was a symptom of something very wrong. Felipe scheduled therapy. He didn't tell anyone, not even Julia, because he was ashamed. 34 years old, and the problem was not knowing who he was. It seemed silly, weak, exaggerated, but he did it because the alternative was to continue, empty, forever. First session, therapist Dr. Renata asked, "What brings you here?" Felipe took a deep breath. I don't know what I like. I don't know anymore who I am, what I want, nothing." He said it all, quickly, before giving up. Renata wrote it down. "When was the last time you did something just because you wanted it?" Felipe thought and couldn't answer. "I don't know. Years, maybe?" "Why did you stop?" "Because it wasn't productive. It wasn't important. It wasn't necessary." "For whom wasn't it important? For everyone? But what about you?" Silence, because the answer was clear. It wasn't important for him either, because he had learned that what's important is what serves a function, and pleasure doesn't serve a function, so it's not important. And Felipe had lived for years by that logic, until he disappeared. Renata gave him a task. "I want you to try one thing a day, something unnecessary, something unproductive, just something that can give you pleasure, anything small, and observe what you feel." Felipe thought it was easy. It wasn't. The next day, he tried. He spent hours thinking what to do. Something unnecessary? Everything seemed necessary, or useless, binary, function or waste, no middle ground. He saw an old sketchbook of drawings in the closet. He picked it up. He leafed through it. Drawings from years ago. There was life there. There was passion. There was him, an old version who still knew how to want. He picked up a pencil. He sat down. He opened a blank page and tried to draw. His hand trembled, not from emotion, from fear. Fear of failing, fear of being bad, fear of wasting time. A voice in his head. "This is useless. You should be working."
This won't change anything. A strong voice, authoritative, familiar. His own voice, which he had trained for years to sabotage pleasure and only function. He closed the sketchbook. He didn't draw. He couldn't. The week passed. Felipe didn't do any homework, not a single day, because he couldn't. He couldn't turn off the voice that said, useless, a waste, wrong. The next session, he confessed, "I didn't do it." Renata didn't judge. Why not? Because I can't. Do something without purpose. It feels wrong. It feels like a waste of time, of energy, of life. And how do you feel doing only productive things? Felipe thought, honestly. Empty, dead, non-existent.
So constant productivity, it's not working, is it? It wasn't, obviously. But Felipe needed to hear it from someone else. That productivity without pleasure, it was slow death, socially accepted, even applauded, but death. Renata continued, Felipe, you don't need to be productive every second of every day. You can simply exist without producing, without adding value, without optimizing. Just be. An alien concept for Felipe. To be without doing, to exist without producing, to breathe without justifying. Impossible, terrifying, necessary. Felipe tried again. Weekend. Julia went out with friends. Felipe alone. Impulse to work, to get ahead on a project, to be productive. But he stopped. He forced himself. He grabbed a notebook, a pencil. He sat in the backyard and he drew. Trembling lines, strange shapes, nothing beautiful, nothing useful, just marks on the paper. And something happened, small, almost imperceptible, but real. He felt it. Not joy, not fulfillment, but presence. He was there, whole, not thinking about work, not worried about tomorrow, just present, drawing, badly, but drawing. And for 5 minutes, he wasn't a function. He was a person, doing something for no reason besides doing. And that was a revolution. Silent, small, but a revolution. Julia arrived. She saw him in the backyard with his notebook. What are you doing? Curious tone, not judgmental. Drawing, he said. Simple, direct. She smiled, didn't say anything, just smiled, and went inside. And Felipe continued, 10 more minutes, until his hand grew tired. And when he stopped, he looked at the drawing. Horrible, disproportionate, childish, but his, genuinely his, and that was worth it. More than any project, any deliverable, any professional praise, because it was his, not out of expectation, not out of function, his. 3 months after starting therapy, Felipe was different, not transformed, but present. He started saying no, small no's, tests. Can you work overtime? No, I can't today. Heart racing, fear of consequences, but nothing happened. Okay, no problem. And the world didn't end. Felipe wasn't fired, he wasn't judged. They just respected his limits. And limits existed because he set them. Julia asked, "What movie do you want to see?" And Felipe, instead of whatever, thought, really thought. That science fiction one, specific, a real preference. Julia looked, surprised, happy. Really? Great. And they watched. And Felipe liked it, really liked it. He didn't pretend, he didn't tolerate it, he liked it. And he felt pleasure. Small, but genuine. And that was huge, because it meant he could still feel, he could still want, he could still be. Felipe started cooking again. Weekend. He chose a recipe. Complicated. Italian. Pasta from scratch. He messed up the whole kitchen. He messed up the sauce twice, but he kept going. And in the end, the dish was mediocre. Not perfect, but made by him, with his choices, his seasoning, his mistakes, and his successes. Julia tasted. It's delicious. Really? Really? And different. It has you know. Felipe understood. It had him. Not perfection, not efficiency, but identity. A unique flavor that only he could make because it was his choice. And choice reveals who you are. And Felipe was beginning to reveal himself after years hidden behind conformity. He also started reading again. Fiction, not self-help, not business. Fantasy, escapism. A waste of time, an old voice used to say. But he ignored it, and he read, and he loved, and he felt. Like when he was 15, and books were portals, not tools. They were worlds, not investments. And that was freedom. Pure, simple, necessary. Julia noticed
"You're coming back," she said one night, lying. Felipe, "Coming back?" "Yes, you're coming back to being you." "I kind of forgot who I was." "I know. I saw you forgetting, and I didn't know how to bring you back because you didn't seem unhappy, just absent." "I was unhappy, deeply, but it was silent, so nobody saw, not even me. And now? Now I'm trying to be someone again. I don't know who yet, but someone, and that's already better than nobody." Julia cried and hugged, and Felipe felt connection, real, first time in years, because he was present to be hugged. Not just a body, but a person, with desires, with tastes, with flaws, with life. And life is messy, imperfect, but real. And real connects. Emptiness doesn't. And Felipe had been empty. But he was filling up, slowly, with small things, bad drawings, mediocre food, escapist books, but his own. It was genuinely his, and that's what built him. Not perfection, but identity. And identity was everything. Felipe returned to his soccer team, amateur, pickup game Thursday night. He used to play years ago, but he stopped. No time. An eternal excuse. But he came back.
And it was awful. Physically, he got tired. He made mistakes. He conceded a silly goal. But he laughed, loudly, genuinely, because it didn't matter. Performance, result, productivity. What mattered was that he was doing something, because he wanted to, because he liked it, because it was his. A teammate asked, "Why did you stop playing?" "I thought it wasn't important." And now? Now I know that it doesn't need to be important to everyone. It only needs to be important to me. And it was. Thursday soccer. It didn't change the world. It didn't pay the bills. It didn't impress anyone. But it was his. His choice. His time. His life. And life doesn't need to impress anyone. It only needs to be lived by you, the way you want. Even if nobody understands, even if nobody sees the value, you see it, and that's enough. It always was enough. Felipe had just forgotten, but he was remembering. One day, one drawing, one recipe, one game, one at a time. If you no longer recognize who you are, if you've lost your identity along the way, know that you are not alone and can find yourself again. Seeking psychological help is a sign of strength, not weakness. CVV 188, available 24/7. Let's name what Felipe experienced. Identity erosion. You adapt so much for so long that you forget your original form and become a reflection of others' expectations. Perfect worker, compliant partner, obedient son. And the person? The person disappears underneath roles that you perform perfectly until nothing is left underneath. Felipe almost vanished completely, not dramatically, silently, and silence makes you invisible, even to yourself. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize the one looking back, because the one looking is a compilation of expectations, not a person. And to live like that without being a person is to die, slowly, socially accepted, even applauded. Look how dedicated he is. No, look how he disappeared and nobody noticed. Science proves it. Loss of identity is real and common, especially in environments that value productivity over individuality. You learn being unique is problematic, being conformist is rewarded, so you conform and conform until there's nothing left to conform to, just emptiness that accepts any form. Studies show people without hobbies, without clear preferences, without a strong identity have higher rates of depression, anxiety, and existential emptiness. Because identity is not a luxury, it's a basic human need. You need to know who you are, what you like,
what you want, not to be selfish, but to be someone. And someone can connect. Emptiness cannot. And Felipe was empty. But he became someone again, with therapy, with effort, with small choices that rebuilt his lost identity. Here's the brutal truth. You can live for years without knowing who you are, and nobody will notice. If you function well, work, respond, agree, everyone will assume that you're happy because you don't complain. But not complaining isn't being happy, is being silent. And silence hides everything, including your absence of yourself. And the more you hide, the more you forget that you're hiding, and it becomes normal. Not to feel, not to want, not to be. It becomes just functioning, and functioning isn't living. Felipe learned the hard way, but he learned, and you can learn, without reaching where he reached, without disappearing completely. Just start, today, now, doing one thing, just one, that isn't necessary, that isn't productive, that is simply yours. Because you want to, not because someone expects it, not because it's right, but because you simply want to. And see what happens. Maybe nothing, maybe everything, but you tried. And trying is a new beginning, of finding yourself, of being someone, of truly living. Felipe doesn't have an extraordinary life today. Same job, same relationship, same house, but inside, a different world. He knows what he likes. Not everything, but something. Football on Thursdays, fresh pasta on Sundays, science fiction, bad cartoons, small things that don't impress anyone, but they're his. And that makes a difference, a total difference between existing and living. He also says no when he needs to. Not always, but sometimes. And sometimes is revolutionary when you spent your life saying only yes. Julia also changed. I preferred you like this, imperfect but present, than perfect and absent. And perfection had been a problem. Felipe thought that being perfect was a goal, but perfection is death of individuality, because perfect has no edges, no texture, no life. And Felipe chose life. Imperfect, messy, his own, and he's living. Finally, for the first time in years. If you're unsure what you enjoy anymore, do one thing today. Choose one small thing, just for you. Something that isn't necessary, and do it. It could be drawing, cooking, reading, playing games, anything. And come back here and comment, I chose it. Because seeing others choose will give you courage. Subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about identity and mental health without romanticizing it and without lying to you. Turn on notifications. Stay with us, because you don't need to disappear to fit in. You can exist, complete, imperfect, but real. And that's enough. It always has been. You just forgot, but you can remember. Starting today.